Good morning. We are going to have so much fun today. This show is all about let's talk about it. So today we're going to talk about wine. And my good friend, actually I've known Jim for a long time, but we finally reconnected not too long ago. So everybody, this is Jim Langman.
Good afternoon.
And he is going to enlighten Jacob here about wine.
I'm full of stuff to learn.
There you go. Anyway, welcome, and tell us a little bit about you.
Well, first, thank you for having us. We're honored to be here, and Jacob, thanks for coming and being our guinea pig.
Hey, happy to be here.
JB, always a pleasure with yourself, and thank you for everyone in Bella Vista, Northwest Arkansas. This is our home. We love it here, and we love that our product is well known and well sold here around the area. So I'm Jim Langman, originally from Chicago. I'm a pharmacist. My wife Susan's a physical therapist. Worked at Walgreens for 29 years. We first got exposed to the wine industry. We went to Napa in 2001, and that started the craziness. And I've been a student of the game for the last 20 plus years with that. Came down here for a second career at Walmart and Sam's Club, where we were only going to be here for 3 years. And candidly, we fell in love with all of Northwest Arkansas. It's just a wonderful place to be. And so we've been here, it'll be 13 years. This is our home. We're going to stay here, and we couldn't be happier about that. We bought raw property out in California in an area in the Sierra Foothills, about 85 miles east of Napa Valley, and bought that in 2009. All family-run wineries, really high-quality products. But the price of the land there is about 1/10 of what it is in Napa, so you've got affordable luxury. And we'll sample that this morning. So we bought the property in 2009, planted the grapes in 2010, sold our first bottle of wine at the end of 2017. That's when I retired from my second career at Walmart and Sam's Club. And we've been doing this full-time, except for that 15 months of COVID, been doing this full-time. We did not build the tasting room in California just because we love it here so much. So we only sell our wines in Arkansas, Missouri, and Kansas, and online, and we ship to 20 states. That's our business model. Yeah. And the wonderful part about it fits the business, but more importantly, it enriches our life. And so for today, we're just going to sample some wines, and this is literally the type of wine tasting we'll do at our events, and I can't wait to start.
Well, I have a couple of questions,
Sure.
and Jacob, so you planted your grapes in 2009.
2009,
So it takes all the way to 17 to get them to where they need to be?
Yeah, so to do it right.
Okay.
So you can plant grapes and harvest lots of them in the third year and fourth year, but they're not going to be great wines. And the reason is the different varietals mature at different rates on the vines. And so our vineyard did not come to full maturity until 2018.
Oh.
Yes, and so like the Cabernet Francs, the Petite Syrahs, and our Malbec, very persnickety vines. And again, you can make wine from all the grapes growing, but it's not going to be the beautiful versions like we have here. The science of wine, there's a lot going on with it, but the biggest thing with wines that I learned and Sue learned is that it all starts in the vineyard. This is a terroir-specific vineyard. Terroir is the fancy term for the whole environment of the vineyard. So in 2009, scientific company, the vineyard manager, the vineyard nursery in UC Davis studied that in total environment, the soil content, the winds, the sun, the humidity, and so forth. And at the end of the year, they came back with 16 rootstock and vine clone combinations specific for what we had there. We planted 14 of them. Now, in the vineyard, for quality, you have to look 10 and 20 and 30 years down the road.
That's what I was wondering. It takes a while. Yes.
So how do we do that? It's the old world way of doing things. So in the vineyard, we limited the number of vines per acre. Each vine, the number of permanent cordons, growth arms, to 4. Trellis the vineyard. And then each year on those growth arms, the permanent ones, the annual growth shoots, we only alternate those. And then on those alternating growth shoots, we limit the number of grapes, bunches of grapes on each of those. After that, for the vineyard, there's 3 levels of grapes. The first grapes that come out every year, those bunches of grapes, first ones are going to be the secondary grapes. They'll be the oldest ones. They'll start coming out in April and in May. The second ones are the primary ones. They have the perfect balance of not too early and not too late. The last bunches of grapes down here, those are going to be the green ones, so you don't harvest too many of those. So our Malbec, our Reserve Cab Franc, our Petite Syrah, we only can take them from the middle. You could take more, but it's not going to be spectacular wine.
So why don't you use the first ones out?
The first one's out because they're not going to be perfect. You can use those. We could actually harvest those and use them and sell them to someone else. But this has got our name on the bottle.
Gotcha.
So our last name is on every single bottle, and our loved ones' names are on each label. And this is going to be a legacy business. I want our great grandkids one day to say, hey, you know that crazy guy Jim and Sue planted this vineyard 100 years ago,
Yeah.
and we're still proud that our name is on it.
So you brought several different kinds and tastes and sweetnesses and dryness. And would you just kind of give us a little, maybe the little quickie on help, Jacob? I don't know how much you know, but there's the dryness and to the sweetness. Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. And like one question that I've kind of had is, what is the best way to preserve wine after you buy it? So, you know, you go to the store and they'll have it in the coolers and whatnot there. After you bring it home, I know a lot of people, they might leave it on the shelf for a couple of months because, you know, it's a fancy thing to sit there and drink it, a big occasion. What's the best way to preserve it in that meantime?
So it's fine wine. It's really important to do that. And a couple things. So in our wines, you know, this is natural cork, and so natural cork is made from the cork oak trees from Portugal. Okay, this is meant to put them there. This is what you bottle fine wines with. Microscopically, the wine will absorb some oxygen over the years. Now, again, these are fine wines, and so our current vintage of our Barbera is 2016. So what we do is it starts off in the barrel room. Our reds will spend between 14 to 24 months in all French oak barrels, then go in the bottle for at least a year before we sell them. So it's not as important with rosés or with white wines, but with red wines, I'm going to use this one because it's got a cork in it, is you want to keep that cork moist.
Okay.
So
And
laying it down.
Lay it
don't
down like
stand it
this,
up.
exactly. And I wouldn't lay it like this because like a lot of red wines and some of ours are not totally filtered. We leave a little bit of things called lees. That's the unexpired, the residue from the yeast that ferments the sugar from the juice of the wine and turns it into alcohol, just like this, so the cork remains wet. And what that does, that means the cork won't dry out. And that's when you see wine cellars, they're just like that. And that's the way where you can say preserve wines for 10 and 20, and some of our wines will last 25 or 30 years. The biggest things that kill wine if they're still sealed are heat and sunlight. So at home, just keep it out of the sun and keep it in the low 70s, and you're going to be fine. If you're going to store it for the long term, which we do through our barrels and where we store our case goods, are kept at 58 degrees. And actually 58 degrees is about the normal underground temperature from the old days in the wine caves before there was refrigeration. So just lay them down, keep the cork moist, and that's it.
Okay.
Along with that, because I think this is something that not a lot of people understand, when they say that red wines you don't chill, the white ones you do, but the red wines nowadays, they're not at 58, so you need to chill your red a little.
Yes, yeah. So that's the storage is 58. So the first thing about wine, so we are the no snooty winery, because what I found over the years is people who are really snooty about wine actually don't know that much. That's the first thing. So enjoy what you enjoy with wines, and don't apologize that you don't know enough or that I only like sweet wines. Whatever. Enjoy what you enjoy, because wine is supposed to be this is called the wine festival today on purpose, because wines are meant to share with food and friends and family and have a nice time, not to be snooty about it, right? And so for wines, with white wines and red wines, they do taste a little nicer when you chill them down. Put them in the fridge for at least a half hour to get them down into the high 40s, which is about the normal serving range. I don't hesitate to serve our white or our rosés or our rosé at room temperature. It's a beautiful wine. Reds, you could store them for the long term at 58, but if you enjoy your reds chilled, just put them in the regular refrigerator for 20 minutes before you open. It'll take the wines down into the low 60s, and that's perfectly fine. I prefer mine at room temperature.
Yes, me too.
Yeah, exactly.
But room temperatures nowadays are not the same as the castles where they used to be stored a long time ago. You know.
So in my office, it's the same temperature as the castles.
That's
I like
right.
it cold. I'm only half Italian. I like it at that temperature.
Okay. Go ahead.
Please.
Well, let's get started.
So first, I'm a pharmacist, so we're going to have a biology lesson. You thought this was just going to be about wine. We're going to do some biology first.
Excellent.
So, everybody 18 in here? No, I'm kidding.
Patrick can be 18.
I
no.
will make this the PG version of us now. So basically, women have twice as many taste buds as men do, on average. My wife tells me twice as many brain cells also, and I'm only smart enough not to argue with her.
She's in the audience, folks.
I'm well trained. So that's the first thing. And the next thing is you have to, with wine, your tongue can only taste sweet, sour, bitter, salty, and something called umami. So the big secret with wine is you don't drink wine. You sip wine. Because if you're only using your tongue, you can only get those four basic characteristics, right? Yeah. The other part, you have smell cells, your olfactory cells in the front of your nose and the top back of your throat. And so the big difference with wine is you're going to sip it. There's all these fancy things that you're going to sniff and swirl and gargle and spit and all the other dramatic things that you'll see out there. You don't have to do that.
Good, Jacob. Don't do that, okay?
So the biggest things, and I'll give you one little hint, is when you have wine, you want to have a nice sized glass. This is the white wine glass, but only fill your wine glass about a third of the way, because very simply, you want to do a little swirl gently. And there's three big things to remember. You're going to sniff, just beautiful bouquet. And if you want to both take that, go right ahead. Beautiful bouquet, and then you're just going to sip a little bit of wine. Swallow. And now use your olfactory cells. You do this after you swallow. You just breathe in slowly over your tongue with your mouth open and through the nose. So the first time you're not sure about that, right?
Yeah,
now let's use your olfactory cells.
Okay.
Now, with your mouth open, just breathe slowly over your tongue. So all that's swirling on the top back of your throat. Now you're going to get the honeysuckle, the pear, the melon. That's how you enjoy your dry wine.
That was a lot more bold of a flavor after you do that.
Exactly correct. And the thing is, if you just drink a dry wine and you get the scrunchy face, like, ooh, I don't like that. So that's what we do. What kind of wines do you normally enjoy?
So normally I stick with the sweet side of things. I usually like stuff where kind of more of a pear and blackberry flavor of wine.
Sure, and perfectly fine. Like I said, enjoy what you enjoy. Now, if you want to go to dry wines, all you do is you change it from drinking to what we just did. And this happens at tastings. We'll do more than 100 events this year, and that same conversation, I'll have that with at least 20 of the people coming to the table, and they go, oh, that was it. Now, the benefit for you is I didn't learn that until I was in my 40s. So you're gonna beat me by 20 years.
Starting early.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So this first wine is a Muscat Canali. Muscat Canali, this is an Italian varietal. It is not a Muscadine nor a Moscato. It's an off-dry wine. So off-dry is a category too many people don't know about. Off-dry means the natural characteristics of this grape is very bright fruit. So you've got honeysuckle and pear and melon, a little apricot on the palate, and that's that beautiful aftertaste, right? Fine wines, people go, oh, it's got that long, yucky taste after it. A fine wine like this is, you're going to enjoy that taste for another minute or 2 minutes on your palate. That's another way to judge the quality of the wine. And one of the things for wines, about 2/3 of the wines in America have added ingredients. There's nothing in these bottles except wine and passion. So I'm a pharmacist. In the fields, we only use elemental additives. So if the fertilizing, it's going to be phosphorus or calcium, magnesium, no chemicals. And then in these bottles, there's nothing in there added. There's no artificial colors, no artificial flavors. So these are the no headache wines also. And I ask you guys to make sure you have water, because with our wines and water, as long as you're not going to drink 2 bottles of it, you tend to not to have headaches from it.
So what are the, I was going to say ingredients, but so tell us about this one. What is it?
Sure. So the grape is called Muscat Canali. There's about 200 different varietals out there with the word Musca. So Muscadine, Moscato is the most common that people know about. But like the last wine we're going to do today is a rare Muscat Hamburg. So there's all different grapes around the world, thousands of them.
You get to eat chocolate with that one.
Yes, very nice. And so this wine, that's the name of the grape. Everything in there is the natural flavors. And all of our wines have loved ones' names on them. This one's Robert's Muscat Canali. I'm one of 8 children. My mom was one of 12. Sue was an only child. My dad was an only child. But we have an enormous Italian side of the family. And so the 3 closest Roberts to us, they all think this is named after them. And we just let them argue. So we don't tell them actually who it was for. So the next thing on the Muscat Canali, is what does it pair with? So people say you have to have red wine and you have to have red meat, and white wine with fish.
No.
Enjoy what you enjoy. I have red wine with almost everything.
Me too.
Perfect, I love that. So for food pairing, if you're really the most basic part about it, is you pair food with wine, either accentuating the profile, the taste profile of the wine, or contrasting it with something that makes them both additive. The food tastes better and the wine tastes better. So
what do we got here that
so
that
for this
would
one,
go with?
I would go with the grapes.
Okay.
And let me get those. Let me get those over for you on the table. And I would have some green grapes or the strawberries. Either one's good, or yeah, those will go great with it. And so we're gonna have a little bit of sweetness with the wine. And how do you pair food the best way? Take a little sip of the wine, chew the food, and then sip a little wine on top of it. See what I mean? So you've got all the tropical fruits that are natural in this. And now we're adding another ingredient into it. So this is actually a little bit of, it's got complementary as well as contrasting because it's such a unique wine. And it's a great table wine. So I believe this wine is actually the ultimate white food pairing wine. And for red wine drinkers, it's the white wine for red wine drinkers because it's actually pretty complicated. So now you are officially a wine snob.
All right.
So from now, pinkies up from now on. No, don't do that. We don't do that.
Well, and the other part, let's talk about the stems a little bit. You know, too, you use you don't grab it like this because you're trying to keep it chilled. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so the biggest thing with the stems, I don't like stemless glasses because the wines, especially if you're serving them chilled, if you have it in your hand, you're going to warm up the wine. But I also think it's just with the stems a little elegant. You do a little bit of a swirl, and it really works really well. These are Riedel glasses. Normally at home, I use just one glass like this. I brought different ones for you today. So the white wines, they're nice and aromatic by themselves. They tend to be served in a little bit smaller glass like you have there.
Okay.
And the size of the rim is very small. And the reason why it's so thin is because you want to have the ability just to sip the wine, because you're going to aerate that wine when you sip it. Then you're going to swallow, and then you're going to savor it by breathing in over your tongue and through your nose.
I like that. I've never realized that the thickness of the glass makes it.
It does. It accentuates the aeration just as you're sipping the wine. Gotcha. Yeah, it makes a big difference.
Okay, so that's our white.
So that's our white wine. And now, if you can either drink or pour, whatever you like. So if we're going to be here for an hour, I've got 6 bottles of wine today. And so
in 30 minutes.
In 30 minutes. No, I'm teasing. And so the other thing, people ask me, what's that?
Oh. So I was going to beat a record.
No, that's it. We got to go on the record. So the biggest thing, and I'm also going to show you how to open a bottle of wine. Don't do that unless you own your own winery. I'm sorry. You should normally use. That's what I do.
One of those.
Cap. That's called the cap I just pulled off. And so you take that off with this, right? People. The thing with opening a bottle of wine is let the machines do the work. And so this is called a corkscrew if you want, or the real term is a key. And that little thing there, the little corkscrew on that, is actually called the worm, if you want to be technical. But you take it like this, and you have the articulated part there, put it in your hand, and hold it just like that, okay? Turn it like this, you got the point sitting there, and without breaking your glass, you put that right in the middle of it, and then stand it straight up. And after that, when you put it on the table, you turn the bottle, not the corkscrew. Just get it
I've
in
been
a couple
doing
times.
that wrong
I've been
all
doing that wrong
along.
my whole life.
That's all you have to do. And then you just hold this like this and turn the bottle. Now when you get really good, you get to do both like that and sometimes snap your thing off. And you put it in there. And now this has an articulated piece right there. So we'll start off with the shorter one right there on the edge of the bottle. And go up a little bit. And then we'll put the corkscrew the rest of the way in. And slowly do this. The other thing with wine, when you're opening wine, is people like to go pop and make a big pop. No. Don't do that. Because when you do that, you're actually fracturing the wine a little bit. You know, the wine is going to sit nice and gracefully and just come to a nice form of status in there, and a stasis rather. And it's all nice and hanging there. It's beautiful. When you do it with cork, you actually get this like having a big piece of sound fracture that, right? So you do it very gently with the cork.
You know, you made that look so easy. I usually have to say a lot of words before I can get the cork.
I did. You always do. Just like you didn't know you have to sip wine. I didn't know how to have to sip wine. I made up new 4-letter words when I was first trying to start, so it's perfectly fine.
Yes.
So rosé, or as we call it here in Arkansas, rose wine. This is rosé, and this is rosé of Primitivo. So what is rosé? In America, about 2/3 of the rosés in America are actually a white wine mixed with a red wine to make a pink wine that they call rosé. Perfectly legal for them to do that, but that's not real wine. That's not real rosé. Real rosé, you harvest the grapes, you press, and the juice runs over the skins one time. That gives it its color.
Oh.
That's a true rosé. This is more. There's more complicated. It's more. There's more to this though. So these are rosé-specific clones of Primitivo. So in France, that's where most of the best vine clones come from. They actually bred. So Primitivo is the Italian cousin of Zinfandel. They bred those the Primitivo grapes there to make a great rosé in the environments here that we have in America, especially on our vineyard. And what does that mean? So for a rosé, we're going to harvest the grapes with a lower Brix level. That's a lower sugar level in the grape. And then once you harvest, the final sugar level in the grape determines the final alcohol level in the wine. But if you harvest it earlier in the season, the grapes haven't had a chance to really mature and get all the great characteristics you want. So you're going to kind of have like a watery wine. So this one took the characteristics of an Italian version of Zinfandel. And so the tastes in this wine are going to be very distinct, like a piano key notes. So it's bright on the tongue. The other part of this is to make it the right way. If you have a bunch of grapes, so this is great. So you have the grapes sitting there, right? I'm only going to touch that one so nobody eat that one. So a bunch of grapes are sitting on the vine. You take the stem and you eat it. Just chew it. It's going to be really bitter, right? Take the skin off that grape, and you just take the skin, and it's a little tart. So if you think about that, we're going to harvest the grapes. If you just press or crush, actually, if you crush the whole bundle of grapes, you're going to break the stems, you're going to fracture those skins, and you're going to get all those tannins. That's where the tannins come from.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So
what we do is we have a destemmer. So first of all, the grapes are pulled off the stems automatically with a machine, and then we use a centrifugal press. And what's that? It's about a 17 or 18 foot press, as big as this, big round drum. Takes 500 pounds of grapes at a time after we've destemmed them. And in the center of it, it's all food quality. On the inside of the barrel, there's an outer tube. All the grapes go on the outer tube. Running down the middle of the barrel is a ring of water. So we put the destemmed grapes in there, and then it spins. And centrifugal force takes the water and presses out on the grapes that are on the outside ring of the drum. Now the water and the grapes are separated, right? What that does, instead of fracturing the skin, when you crush, this thing's gonna all be crushed, the stem's gonna be crushed. What happens with that, the press takes the juice and puts it right out the little hole that's natural on the grape. So what we do is we reduce the amount of tannins that are in the wine just by doing that. And
So no more food stomping, with your shoes off.
So the first time, I put the Lucille Ball Italian peasant dress on, and we did do the food stomping. No, we didn't. We did not do that. I'm kidding you.
Okay, so what are we looking for here?
And so rosé, the
Yes.
rosé should be a dry wine. It should not be acidic or bubbly or sweet. But this is actually a full-body rosé. And then when we're getting to this now, it's going to get even more important that you're sipping the wine. And so this one, you're going to have a little baby grapefruit, little strawberry, almost a little, I get a little, the old hard candy, the Jolly Rancher hard candy, get just a touch of that on the palate. So it's sip.
Interesting.
So you sniff, sip, and savor.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a beautiful wine. I love our wines. I know that. But this is really, if you had a very expensive French rosé, that's what this tastes like. Yeah, it's just beautiful. And so this one, let's pair it with the same thing. Take a strawberry.
Okay.
Yep.
You got about.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah, strawberry, strawberry, strawberry. See, your mom's not here, so you can have the
I
strawberry.
know. I was saying back on the set. So my mom was allergic to strawberries when I was growing up. So anytime I wanted to get something that I knew that I'd be the only one that could eat it, I'd always get strawberries.
So part of our fundraising efforts, JB, at the end of the show, we're going to raffle off this pour bucket as a Bella Vista blend. What do you think? No, I'm kidding. We're not doing that.
You know what? I do have to say, and I think I told you this at your last tasting, I have never been, okay, I like reds, heavies, but I've never really cared for rosé until I tasted yours.
Yeah, thank you. This is a true rosé. Yeah, so our winemaker is Marco Capelli, and Marco, actually, he ran Swanson's in Napa Valley for 12 years, went to 8 years in Spain, France, Portugal, and France, Spain, Portugal, and Germany, excuse me. And he's just a world-class winemaker, and what we learned out there was what to do and what not to do in the vineyard, and the purity importance in the winery, and that's what we have in these bottles.
So what have we got here?
So this is
my favorite.
This is Barbera. So a lot of people call it Barbera. It's Barbera. So Barbera is an Italian varietal, and it's common. Barbera and the Nebbiolo grapes are common in Brunello, in the Piedmont area of Italy, for Brunellos and Barbarosos and Barbera d'Astis. Barbera in America, this is the last one we said yes to because we had never had a great Barbera because most of them are just acid bombs. Where this one's got grips, it's an Italian varietal, but you're going to see just beautiful characteristics of a very, very high-end Italian Barbera.
Has a very lovely smell to it.
Isn't that gorgeous? See?
It's nice.
It's pretty. So,
This is my fave.
Really?
So wines, just with that, you'll know they're going to hurt sometimes. These, they're not going to hurt because they're so beautiful. Oh, just gorgeous. So that's what the barrel room at the winery smells
Okay,
like.
nobody else have anything out of that bottle because it's mine.
Okay. And for this one, let's
Yes.
go with the salami because it's an Italian wine.
There you go.
Okay.
And so Sue and I were at a tasting, large tasting about 2 months ago, and there's bottles of Italian versions of this from $53 to $125 a bottle, and we compared them to our Barbera, and the customers figured out that, wow, this is the best Barbera in the shop for maybe $27 a bottle.
All right. All right. So we're
So
we're
why is
closing in.
that so important to us? Because this one is rosé. It's Lovey's Rosé. That's named after Sue's late mom, Lovey, the most angelic person I ever met. Love her. Fortunately, we lost her when we were about 19 years old. A lovely lady. That was her only vice, was a little bit of rosé every Sunday after church.
Oh,
Same bottle last.
that's not a vice. That's a pleasure.
It is. She was the most wonderful person. And Vincent Henry, this is our flagship wine. And this is named after my late father and my hero, most decent person I've ever met. And I hope one day to be half as good a person as he is. That's how much that wine means to us. So we're going faster now because of time, but the last one is called Heaven's Kiss. And Heaven's Kiss is our American port. So port is
You're gonna
obviously
need a kiss for this.
true port.
One of these.
Oh, I thought that was coming from me. All right. No, you're not, Jake. I don't care what you say, Jacob. You're getting a Hershey kiss and then a Jim kiss.
Okay, I'm good with that.
So port obviously is from Portugal, and this is called Heaven's Kiss. This is a rare black strain of Muscat Hamburg grapes. We leave them on the vines so they're high in sugar. We harvest, we press, we start fermentation, and then to stop fermentation, we add 80 proof wine brandy to the must, to the fermenting wine. And then this goes into heavy toast French oak barrels for years. It's the only heavy toast we use. Third bottling of it, this is a combination of 2016s and 17s. It'll be different vintage every time, but we always want it to taste very similar. This is the one wine we have that should taste, bless you, that should taste the same every time you have it. So this one, you're gonna get honeysuckle, you're gonna get fig and raisin and prune and caramel and cocoa. Gotta be careful, it's a flavor explosion. You just touch your tongue to it at first, because it's going to go, wow, is there a lot going on there? Why is it like this? So Heaven's Kiss, the reason it's called Heaven's Kiss is the first time Susan tasted it, she went, oh my heavens. And so that's why it doesn't have a family member's name.
She gave you a kiss.
Give me a kiss. Yeah. Well, that's her source of kisses now, actually. And so while you're enjoying, just take a sip, and then take a little bite of your chocolate, and then chew that on top of it. So why did we make this wine? So again, our winemaker Marco spent 8 years out in Europe, and in Portugal he spent time in a couple port houses. In America, the typical port buyer is a 56-year-old white male, so it's like me. The problem with lots of ports, I'm a pharmacist, so the ruby ports taste like Chiricol cough medicine, and the regular ports actually taste like syrup, right? So this is going to be more of a nectar. It's not real cloyy, and the biggest thing, we want to make it to the American palate and the American female palate, because females have twice as many taste buds as us cavemen, and so the big, heavy, yucky stuff, we like that. This is an elegant port, and it goes with everything.
You know, I lived in Europe for a long time, and I would only drink port from Portugal, which is where it's from. But this is nice.
It's a beautiful wine. Yeah, it really is. And so this is how you enjoy food, how you enjoy wine.
Ooh, that even gets better.
It
Have
does.
another kiss. Here you go.
Has a really good aftertaste
something?
to it as well.
So the great part about what we just did here is this how you enjoy wine. You don't drink wine, you savor wine. And some people are going to have the $3 bottles, and it's a party, where this is a festival. And you accentuate life, have it in moderation, pair it with food if you want, don't have to pair it with food if you don't want. What's the great part about it, it's a great connection with other human beings who enjoy it also.
Exactly. And you know, I'm not rushing us, but our time is almost up. But what I want to do is thank you so much. You have, thankfully, donated a beautiful basket for the silent auction. That starts today, folks, at Bella Vista Bar and Grill for the golf tournament that's coming up. So I'm going to bid on your basket.
Please do that. It's got a cool golf hat. It's got the logo wine sack with it also. Called
does.
Great Bottles of Wine, and I believe it's got the Barbera in it also. I just, from Sue and I, sincerely, for everyone in Northwest Arkansas, you changed our lives in a wonderful way. It's the exact opposite of what Chicago was and what California is, and that's why we're here. We could not be happier. Totally different business model, but we come here every day. We walk out of the house and we go, oh, thank you, God, we're here. Literally, that's what we do, and this is a magic place we have. It's people don't like it, describe it as the Truman Show. The people who really like it, like us, it's like a living Norman Rockwell painting. So thank you for all of us, and I want to welcome all of you to the Langman Winery family, and thank you for letting us be here.
Okay, so that's it for today. So, crew, as soon as we shut down the cameras, join us up here with food and wine.
I brought plenty of glasses.
All right, thank you.